जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज बिहारी जय गोपीजनवल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी यशोधनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यशोधनन्दन व्रजजनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारि यमुनातीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा माधव राधे जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेवा सुभद्रमाई जय सुदर्शना जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय पंचतत्वा जय पंचतत्वा जय पंचतत्वा जय पंचतत्वा जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद
मंगलाचरणम्। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तु ते सप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे बृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
Jai,
हरे
nicely
कृष्ण।
recited, Mataji. Thank you. I see Grishma Mataji now. Mataji, can you take over? Grishma Mataji.
नरसिंहार्ति
Yes.
नामस्ते नरसिंहाय नामस्ते नरसिंहाय प्रह्लादलाददायिने प्रह्लादलाददायिने हिरण्यकाशीपूर्वक्षः हिरण्यकाशीपूर्वक्षः शीलटङ्कानखालये नीलटङ्का नखालये इतो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा इतो नरसिंहा परतो नरसिंहा यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा यतो यतो यामि ततो नरसिंहा बहिर्नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा बहिर्नरसिंहा हृदये नरसिंहा नरसिंहमादिं शरणं प्रपद्ये नरसिंहमादिं शरणं प्रपद्ये तव करकमलवरे नखाम अद्भुत श्रृंगा actually Mataji, the tune I'm used to a different tune, so this I don't know the tune of this for can I sing in my usual
Go ahead,
usual
Mataji. Go ahead.
तव करकमलवरे नखाम अद्भुत श्रृंगा दलिता हिरण्यकशिपू तनुभृङ्गम् केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय विघ्न विनाशा जय नरसिंहदेव विघ्न विनाशा जय नरसिंहदेव जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय अनंत देव लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय अनंत देव जय भक्तवत्सला जय नरहरि भक्तवत्सला जय नरहरि जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय
Jai.
हरे
Thank you, Mataji. Sumit Prabhu, can I
Yes,
request you
Mataji.
to track the attendance for today, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
The same sheet that you used last week, you can update or however you like it, like you did last week. Okay, so we finished till verse 57, is it? 57?
We'll start with 2.60.
59.
We finished 59?
Yes, Mataji.
Let us start with 2.6.
Okay. 2 point?
60.
We should start from 60. Okay. Okay, before that, today most likely is going to be the last class for chapter 2. Let's quickly summarize what's gone on in chapter 2 so far. So we started this chapter. Krishna is chastising Arjuna because he expressed 4 different concerns. He said that, if I continue with this war, there'll be so many sins. There's be no enjoyment, family destruction, family values will be destroyed, and finally there'll be no enjoyment. Right? So he gave 4 different reasons like this. So because of which Krishna started chapter 2 by chastising Arjuna. So finally Arjuna tells the real reason why he's concerned. He's saying, how can I fight all my elders like Bhishma and Dronacharya? Isn't it better for me to live by begging in that case instead of fighting them? So he, with that, he expressed his indecision to Krishna. Should I fight, not fight? Should I be slain by these kings instead of fighting them? Now, and saying this, Arjuna has surrendered to Krishna. He says, Shishyasteham sadimam tvam prapannam. So I surrender to you. Accept me as your disciple. And with that, Krishna takes over. Right? Krishna, first of all, starts explaining Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga is an analytical study of body and mind, body and soul. And with that, he explains that we are actually the soul, not the body, the external body. So for the soul, then there is no dying, there is no killing. Nothing can slay it, nor the soul can slay anyone. So in that case, Arjuna, he should not worry about killing the body, because the body is anyway not temporary, whereas the soul is permanent and there's no death to the soul. So with that, he removes the first doubt in Arjuna's mind, where expressed doubt that, he's fulfilled with compassion for the people he's going to kill in the war. He said, you don't have to have this compassion for the soul, because soul can never be killed. And with that, he ends Jnana Yoga. And from there, he explains Sakama Karma Yoga. This is Karma Yoga, but working with attachment to the result. Sakama Karma Yoga. Okay, and he then explains that in the case that Arjuna is fighting even for the sake of the kingdom, even then, if he wins the battle, then he'll anyway get the kingdom. And if he fails, if he's killed in the war, then he'll attain heavenly planets. So either which way, there is enjoyment for Arjuna, right? So with that, he answers the second doubt of Arjuna, that there's no enjoyment. Then further, Arjuna talks about he will incur sins. And then the other doubt that he expressed was, the fourth doubt was the destruction of family traditions. And the fifth doubt that he expressed was indecision. Now, after explaining Sakama Karma Yoga, Krishna then explains Nishkama Karma Yoga. Nishkama Karma Yoga is also called as Buddhi Yoga, where intelligence is used to connect us to Krishna. So when we use everything we have, all the work that we do, if we use our intelligence to surrender to Krishna, then that kind of intelligence is Buddhi Yoga. Yoga is connection, right? So when you use our intelligence to surrender to Krishna, then that is Buddhi Yoga. So in Nishkama Karma Yoga, Krishna is explaining that in this kind of work, one should do their duty without expecting any results or trying to be the cause of the result. And they should do their duty still without being attached to not doing their duty. So they should perform the duty as a matter of because it's a duty and has to be done. And Krishna is explaining further in Buddhi Yoga, whatever one attains, there's no loss in this yoga, right? He explains that there is no nasho, no na pratyavaya. Nasho means there is no loss or there's no diminution, right? Even whatever bhakti yoga or devotional service that we have done in this life, even in the next life, it continues. So we start from where we left. So there's no loss, no diminution. And further, he explains about vyavasayatmika buddhi, just like a businessman, vyavasaya, one who's involved in business, just like he focuses on money in every activity, just like that, we should have vyavasayatmika buddhi in our service to Krishna. Krishna should be our only objective. And with that, he answers the fifth question, the indecision of Arjuna. So one who has this vyavasayatmika buddhi, for them, it is very, there is no indecision, because they are very objective on why they are living, why they are serving as human being, what's the purpose of their human life. So when they have so much clear objective on the purpose of human life, then there's no indecision. So Krishna is saying, engage your vyavasayatmika buddhi and engage in Krishna's service only. And he further explains in part of the Karma Yoga, he explains how people have who are surrendered to Vedas. He calls the people as unintelligent followers of the yoga, of the Vedas. They have their intelligence have many directions, but one who follows Buddhi Yoga, their intelligence is only for surrender to Krishna. Right. So with that understanding, he further explains how to practice Nishkama Karma Yoga. Right. He says it should be dutifully done without attachment for results. And yoga is done in equanimity. Equanimity is equipoised, without being deterred by what's a good result or bad result. Is the result going to be favorable or unfavorable? So without considering all these other factors, one should still do their duty in equanimity and reject all abominable activities, he say. Any karma kanda activities that does not bring you to Krishna. Though previously Krishna said, even if you're doing karma kanda activities, you still should fight. So it seemed like Krishna was suggesting Arjuna to do karma kanda activities. But he was just answering to the point of Arjuna that there's no enjoyment. So if you're fighting for the sake of enjoyment, then even then there's enjoyment. So Krishna was responding in that context. But in lieu of talking about buddhi yoga, Krishna says, give up all abominable activities. And here he's talking about the karma kanda activities or sakama karma yoga, where people act for the end result. So he's saying, give up all kind of abominable activities. And what is the result of buddhi yoga? He says there's no reactions. He's now responding to the third doubt. There's so many sins, Arjuna had said, if he fights this war. So Krishna is saying there's no reactions. Even you're doing good or bad activities, as per material world, it might be a good or bad activity. But if you're doing this activity in buddhi yoga, there's no reactions or sins incurred for those activities, right? So, and there's no one is freed from the cycle of birth and death. And we eventually develop indifference to all what is to be heard and what is to be said. So indifference to all the Vedas, all the chatter around us. We develop indifference to all that. And we develop fixed intelligence or buddhi yoga to surrender to Krishna. And this way we reach by performing a karma, we can reach the level of samadhi. So these are the different benefits of working in karma yoga. Now, since Krishna was talking so much about how to act in buddhi yoga, in the final verse, that is verse 53, Krishna had introduced the word sthita prajna to explain what are the benefits of karma yoga or buddhi yoga. So Arjuna had put this question, who is a sthita prajna? What are his symptoms? How does he speak? How does he sit? How does he walk? Right? And in that, Krishna had in verse 55 has explained the symptoms of a sthita prajna. Okay, and the symptoms are they give up all kind of material desires and that arise in the mind. And with single focus, they are able to surrender their self to the Lord. That is sthita prajna. And how does a sthita prajna speak? The Astita Pragna, he's not elated by anything that's going on around them. No happiness, no sadness. They are free from attachment. They are free from fear and anger. So, such a person, sage with such steady mind, even if they are between three kinds of material miseries, they still continue doing their duties. So that's how they speak. And in this context, speak means how do they react to different kind of situations that come to them. Okay, so in that case they are equipoised in all kind of situations. And the last not the last question, this third question was, how do they sit? And here we should remember the example of the tortoise. So the tortoise withdraws his limbs whenever it takes out his limbs only when it needs something from outside the shell. Otherwise, it withdraws into the shell. So similarly, a sthita prajna will engage his limbs or his senses only when engaging in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, they withdraw their senses. Okay, so this is how a sthita prajna reacts. And also, because they are attached to a higher taste, param drishta nivartate. Okay, so because they're attached to a higher taste, they give up attachment to the lower taste. So this is how they are able to control their senses, and this is how they sit, how they react to different situations, how do they react to their sense objects. Now, the final question is, how does he walk? So this is what we'll start reading from verse 60. 60, just give me a second. Any questions on anything that was discussed so far? All clear? Okay,
Yes.
let's start reading verse 60 today then. Whoever is supposed to read, if you could start reading.
Yes, Mataji. Text 60. Yato yato yatatto hi api kaunteya purushasya vipaschitah Indriyani pramathini haranti prashabham manah. Translation: the senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind, even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry the mind even of a man of discrimination. A man of discrimination, what does that mean? A discrimination is a sage who's trying to control their mind, who knows what's right and wrong. Okay, so they are actively trying to control their mind. So even of such a man who knows what's right and wrong, and they're trying to engage their senses in the right kind of things, even to them, the mind can deviate them. Okay, so that's the meaning of this verse. So the verse here is talking about of a person with discrimination. Okay, so what to talk about people like you and me then? We anyway have no discrimination of what is right or what is wrong. We might have it from a material perspective, saying this is good for me or this is bad for me, but from a spiritual point, we still are struggling to have that kind of discrimination. But here this verse is saying, even who's established in his mind on what is right and wrong for his spiritual life, even for them the mind uh, uh, can easily take them away from or it's the senses are so strong and impetuous that it can forcibly carry away the mind even of such a person. Now a good example of this is a sage called Vishwamitra. Does everyone know who's Vishwamitra? Have you heard about his pastime?
Mataji, Bhagwan Ram's Guru
Yes,
Maharaj.
yes.
He was allured by Menka.
He was allured by Menaka. So how is it possible if Vishwamitra was such a sage who had no control on his mind? How then did Vishwamitra become guru of Ramachandra himself? How do we understand this pastime?
Mataji, that is maybe due to past life or past karmas.
Ah, okay. We are guessing, right?
Yeah, I'm guessing, Mataji. I'm not
Okay,
a
okay, okay. Okay, that's your perspective. Cool. Any other thoughts? What
He
do you
un-
think?
um,
Mataji,
he undertakes
oh,
and
carry
get
on,
back
Mataji.
to his yoga practice, and again he went back to his samadhi. He
Can you
very
repeat that, Preeti Mataji? Sorry, somebody was talking together with you.
realized his mistake that he'd been caught by Maya, so he went
Mm,
back to samadhi, Mataji, and
okay, okay. Somebody else was saying something. Thank you, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. He wanted to compete with sage Vashishta, and
Vashishta. Mm,
yeah, because
yes,
he wanted to become equal to him, and
yes,
so he was also doing penance. And
yes. So what you said is absolutely right. So the pastime began as such that when he saw the Surabhi cow with Vashishta Muni, once they were passing the hermitage of Vashishta Muni, and he came with his whole army, so such a big army, and he comes there and all of them are very tired, whatever they were gone for a fight or they had just returned from a hunting, but he both Vishwamitra and his Sena was very hungry. Okay, and it so happened that they happened to be close to the hermitage of Vashishta Muni. Now, Vashishta Muni, when he saw that his guests are very tired and hungry, he immediately invited them and said, why don't you rest for some time? By then, I'll prepare something for you to eat. Now, of course, they're in a hermitage. They did not expect some lavish lunch or dinner. But they said, okay, whatever you can offer, we'll be happy to accept it. But it so turned out that Vashishta Muni, in a fraction of few minutes, he was able to produce such a lavish meal for this whole Sena, hundreds of men. And it's not like ordinary meal. It was a good lavish setup. like we have this big Maharaja thali, so many items of vegetables and sweets and all of that. And everyone relished the food. But of course, Vishwamitra had this doubt. How is it possible that a sage who's living on, few donations, how is he able to produce such a lavish lunch and serve all his whole army? And then he puts this question to Vashishta. Vashishta said, I have the Surabhi cow, which is the gift of the demigods to me. And this cow can give me any food, anything that I wish for. It's like wish fulfilling cow. So if I want food, it can produce food for me. And this way, when he heard that, how did Vashishta Muni procure this cow? Because he's a Brahma Rishi. The highest level of being a rishi is a Brahma Rishi. So this Vishwamitra now wants this Surabhi cow. And he says, he requests Vashishta Muni, what's the use of this cow? I have to serve so many people across my kingdom. This cow is going to be more useful for me serving the kingdom than in your hermitage. But Vashishta Muni did not want to give away this cow because he was attached to the cow as well. It's an animal, and he took care of the cow like a mother. So he was not just willing to give away this cow like that. So with that, Vishwamitra waged a war on the saint, and it said that all his army who was just served by the Vashishta Muni, they started attacking the sages of Vashishta Muni's hermitage. And as they were getting attacked, the Surabhi cow in the background, it's producing very violent looking warriors who are attacking the whole Vishwamitra's army and fighting them and defeated them as well. So Vishwamitra faced a very humiliating defeat in the hands of Vasishta Muni. But also a realization dawned on him, saying, I'm a king. And still, I was defeated by this sage who has nothing other than, he's got all his material wellness because he's a Brahma Rishi. So he said, okay, then that is going to be my objective today. From today, I want to be a Brahma Rishi. So with that, he gives up his kingdom, and there are various stages of being a rishi. Just because one has decided to become a rishi, one does not become a Brahma Rishi just like that. There's different stages. Like for example, there are Shruta Rishis. Shruta Rishis are people who listen to the Vedas. Like you and me we can call ourselves as Shruta Rishis because we listen to the to Bhagavad Gita, we recite shlokas, and then there are Mantra Rishis. And then there's Maharishis, Deva Rishis, and like this, there are different levels of rishis. Deva rishis are rishis who generally associate with devas. Like Devarshi is a Deva Rishi, Narada Muni is a Deva Rishi. Similarly, people who associate further, who have further realization and who can associate it with up to Brahma Loka can be Brahma Rishis as well. And then there are certain Rishis who they are like advisors. They can be kings themselves who also behave like rishis, like Janak Maharaj or Vishwamitra. Also, when he started, he was a Raja Rishi because he was a king as well as he was managing, he was involved in devotional work or meditating on the Lord. So when he started meditating, he meditated with this intent that I want these material things. He was praying for material desires, right? And when he was praying or for material things, and of course, because Indra, because of his tapasya, Vishwamitra's tapasya, Indra is getting very nervous. So he sent Menaka to disturb his tapasya. And where does the disturbance start? First, he hears the sound of the anklets, right? So when he hears the sound, he's deep in meditation and his mind is slowly getting attracted to the sound of the anklets. Now he's contemplating on the sound of that anklet. He's thinking, okay, this seems like a woman because it's an anklet. It cannot be a man. And the anklets is sounding so nice. It must be a beautiful woman if she is walking here with anklets like this, and the movement sounds very sounds very seductive. So he's contemplating, thinking about this sound, and his contemplation grew to an extent that he was forced to open his eyes and look at Menaka, and the eyes is now engaged. Another sense from here, his eyes is engaged. And here there's a common point, the mind, because the mind is receiving the sound from the ear. So what happens? Ear is engaged and the mind got distracted. And because the mind got distracted, his eyes is distracted, right? And at this stage, Vishwamitra is still a Rajarishi and he's praying for material comfort. So this is another example then that because if we are in some kind of renunciation, to achieve material wellness, we are doing our tapasya, penances for material welfare, well-being, then there'll be some level of distraction because we are not completely surrendered to the Lord in that sense, right? But of course, like one Mataji told, we or Prabhuji also said that we cannot look down on the position of Vishwamitra because after this episode, though he was distracted, he did grow back. He grew to different stages of being a rishi, and then he became a Brahma rishi himself. And at this point, Ramachandra accepted him as his guru. Okay, so we should understand these pastimes in the sense that these different Mahajanas, they are trying to play different roles to make us understand the importance of surrender to material desires versus surrender to the Supreme Lord Himself. So here, initially, since Vishwamitra was surrendered to material desires, so even though he tried to focus his mind, his intelligence did not support him. And finally, he surrendered to his senses. Okay, so this is how we understand this verse. Let's read this purport a bit. Just give me a second. Read from here, since my mind. Sumit Prabhu.
Yes. Since my mind has been engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and I have been enjoying an ever new transcendental humor, whenever I think of sex life with a woman, my face at once turns from it, and I spit at the thought.
Thank you.
Next passage, Hare Krishna.
So, who is saying this? It is said by Sri Yamunacharya. Who is Yamunacharya? Anyone knows? He's a spiritual master of Ramanujacharya. So, previously, he has been a Grahastha. So, he's experienced sex life before. But he says now that he's surrendered to Krishna, okay, those previous desires don't bother him much. And whenever he thinks about it, of sex life with a woman, then my face at once turns from it and I spit at that thought, right? So, in other words, desires will never go because we have experience dealing with different material desires. We can try whatever we can, but the desires won't completely go. So, how do we then react to that desire? The answer will come in the next verses, but let me also give a pretext to the verses that follow. Like, for example, let's think that you are seated to have a big offering. Offering is done, and a lot of food items are arranged for prasadam. You're very hungry, okay? So you sit down to honor the prasadam. So initially, you might eat, okay, I'm very hungry. I want 5 rotis. I want 2 servings of rice. I want sweets. Put again, put again. Till what point will you eat like this? Can you eat like that forever?
No, Mataji, till your
No,
stomach is
Mataji.
Till your hunger is
hunger
subsided, till you're
subsided.
no longer hungry. Let's say you're now fully happy, satiated, right? And someone says, Prabhu, you didn't have this rasgulla, only two rasgullas, Prabhu, please have this, right? What will you tell them then? Right? You'll say, no, 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 I can't eat anymore. Though initially you wanted to eat everything. Now, though they're offering you more, you'll say, no, 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 I don't want this. So same way, when you are in Krishna consciousness, we become so satiated with material life. You have experienced your material life to your max. And when you're finally in Krishna consciousness, you're satiated with material life. You no longer have the same pleasure of enjoying material life. So everything suddenly becomes distasteful, or you do your material duties to the extent it is required. It's not that that becomes your primary enjoyment or the only thing that you focus on life. And similarly for grahastas, especially since most of you are grahastas, even if you're not married, you're still grahastas because you're engaged in family life, your parents, your different relatives, you're engaged with them. So in that sense, most of us are grahastas, right? So even especially for grahastas, this material life, we have more tendencies to enjoy such material things in our grahastha ashrama. So which means that that even in future, when you're trying to renunciate from these desires will keep coming. It will remind you of, the street side pani puri, or people who are addicted to coffee. They'll think, just pass some darshini or hotel around, they'll smell the coffee and they say that coffee, I used to have it at one point. Now I have given up on it, but the desire is still there. That smell, you take a whiff and you think coffee is so nice. It was so nice to have coffee and onion dosa at one point, right? Tell me if anybody has not had those desires after you have quit it so far. So those desires will keep coming, right? The desires will not go. So what should we do then? Can we just say that I'm going to shut down all these desires? I'll artificially renounce all these desires. Some, a wall. I'll build a wall and I'll block these desires. We cannot do that. So let's understand this a little better. Verse 61, please. Verse 61. Sumit Prabhu, can you please find out who has verse 61? I request
Harsh Prabhu
everyone to.
Mataji.
Harsh Prabhu is not on the
Hmm.
call. So I'll request Chaitanya Mataji to read.
तानि सर्वाणि संयम्य युक्त आसीत मत्परः वशे हि यस्येन्द्रियाणि तस्य यज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता.
Tasya prajna pratishtita.
Yeah, tasya prajna pratishtita. Translation: one who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence.
Krishna is. Thank you, Mataji. So Krishna in this verse finally is saying, fixes his consciousness upon me. So there's no further doubt that Krishna is talking about himself. Focus on me. He's not talking about, this demigod, that demigod, do this, focus on your pleasure. No, he says, fix your consciousness upon me. So Krishna is openly saying at this point, don't think about anything else. Just think about me. Okay. And in this context, there's an example of Ambarisa. Mataji, can you read these from here? Chaitanya Mataji.
Yeah. As cited above, the great sage Durvasa Muni picked a quarrel with Maharaja Ambarisa, and Durvasa Muni unnecessarily became angry out of pride and therefore could not check his senses. On the other hand, the king, although not as powerful as yogi as the sage, but a devotee of the Lord, silently tolerated all the sage's injustices and thereby emerged victorious. The king was able to control his senses because of the following qualifications as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam.
Read from here, Mataji.
King Ambarisha fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, engaged his words in describing the abode of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the form of the Lord, his body in touching the body of the devotee, his nostrils in smelling the flavor of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his tongue is tasting the tulsi leaves offered to him, his legs in traveling to the holy place where his temple is situated, his head is offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. And all these qualifications made him fit to become a Matpara, the devotee of the Lord.
The word Matparaha, thank you, Mataji, is described in the life of Ambarisha Maharaj, is described in the life. What is the meaning of the word Matparaha? Matparaha is in relationship with me. So in this verse, Krishna is saying when one uses all their senses only in connection with Krishna, and the example for this is Ambarisha. Ambarisha Maharaj is very famous because he is one devotee. Some might have used one single sense, like the the four Kumaras. They became a devotee because they smelled the fragrance of tulsi. So they used their nose right? And similarly, some other devotees, they would have heard about the kirtans of the Lord and then they became devotees. But Ambarisha Maharaj, all his senses he's used actively in serving the Lord, right? And hence he's very famous because he's the only one devotee that I know that he engaged all his legs. He did not, like the tortoise, if he did not have any Krishna conscious activities to perform, then he was not performing, though he was a king and he had to do a lot of administrative work. But he would do his activities such that it was in remembrance of Krishna. So he's traveling, he's doing any work, he's offering, he's cleaning, he's walking, whatever he's doing for the Lord. And at the same time, he's also performing his duties like a king is supposed to do, taking care of his subjects, just like a parent take care of his children and make them nice Krishna conscious devotees. Similarly, he's taking care of his subjects to make them good devotees of the Lord. Right? So this way, he is known to be a very good king and a devotee as well. And to such a king, once Durvasa Muni came to visit him, it said that this king, Ambarisha, had performed Ekadashi fasting for 1 year. And he was finally in the Parana time. He was about to break his fast. And his Ekadashi fasting is nirjala, without water as well. Same with his wife. Both he and his wife had performed this Ekadashi Vrata. And then on the day of the Dwadashi, after 1 year of fasting, when he finally was ready to break his fast, Durvasa Muni and his disciples arrived there. And since in the, our Amrisha Maharaj, he was serving a lot of Brahmanas during the Parana time, he's serving them prasadam. So after everyone is served, he would himself go accept the prasadam. But seeing that Durvasa Muni has arrived and it's almost getting close to the Parana time. So Parana time is almost getting over. And Durvasa, they invited Durvasa Muni and his disciples to come accept the prasadam. But Durvasa said, let me finish my bathing. So I'll do my Vandana and Sandhya Vandana and then just come back. And with that, he went to take a bath. And he's got so engrossed in his prayers that he lost count of time. And here the Parna time is ticking. And if he misses this time, then all the 1 year of fasting that he's done, it's of no value because the fasting has to be broken within the Parna time. And so he was in a kind of conflicted situation. And at this point, he asked his other Brahmanas, the learned Brahmanas, what to do. Because they said, in that case, why don't you break your fast with water? So drinking water, because he had done a nirjal, so drinking water is such that he's broken the fast with water, with jal, and also it's not like a grain breaking fast with grain. He did not have sumptuous food. So in that way, you can wait for Durvasa Muni and after breaking your fast with water and then continue serving him. But Durvasa Muni got to know about this in his Tapasya Shakti figure that Amrisha Maharaj had broken, dishonored him by breaking his fast before honoring all the Brahmanas. So with full anger, he came to curse the Lord. Curse Ambarisha. And just then, Sudarshana, it said that Sudarshana is always protecting, just like Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva. Sudarshana is always protecting Amrisha because he's a devotee of the Lord. And Sudarshana, the main intent of having Sudarshana is protect the devotees of the Lord. So when Durvasa came to curse Amrisha, the Sudarshana chased Durvasa. And Durvasa first went to Brahma Loka. And Brahma said, no, I can't protect you from Sudarshana. You'll have to maybe try with Shiva. Then he went to Shiva. And from there, Shiva also says, I can't help you. You have to go to Vishnu. He went to Vishnu. Vishnu also said, I can see that you are running from the Sudarshana. Sudarshana is my weapon, but even I can't protect you from Sudarshana because Sudarshana is there to protect my devotees. And something that is supposed to do, if I tell it to not to do, then it is be against my, what it's been created for. So I can't stop the Sudarshana. But instead, what you can do is go surrender to the lotus feet of Ambarisha, my devotee, because you dishonored my devotee. So the only way to stop the Sudarshana is to beg forgiveness from the devotee who you have dishonored. So with this, and this whole passing through Brahma Loka, Shiva Loka, Vishnu Loka, or Vaikunta, it took about 1 year for Durvasa to complete this whole. And till then, it said that Ambarisha Maharaj did not eat anything. though he broke his fast with water, he continued not eating till the point Durvasa Muni came back. And as soon as, so it was almost 2 years of fasting for Amrish Maharaj. And as soon as Dhruva Maharaj, sorry, why am I saying Dhruva Maharaj? As soon as Durvasa Muni saw Amrisha, he immediately fell at the feet of Amrisha Maharaj and begged for forgiveness. And immediately he asked Sudarshana to leave him. And Amrisha Maharaj said, but you don't have to ask for forgiveness because I never took offense. So if there's no offense taken, then there's no question of forgiveness as well. So with that, you can understand, because Ambarisha Maharaj was surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord, he was under the full protection of the Lord. Now here, Durvasa Muni, he is also a great devotee, and there are many pastimes related to Durvasa Muni like this, where he is trying to prove the potential of a devotee of the Lord. So we can understand it that in that context, but also it's a reminder that, for the devotee who surrendered to the Lord, then there's full protection of the Lord. Right? So Krishna is saying here directly that engage your mind on me. He isn't saying renounce everything, disengage from all activities. But for example, like Ambarisha Maharaj, he did not disengage from all activities. He continued engaging, but he engaged all his senses on Krishna. So that way he was able to control his senses. Right, and detach also from material results. So his senses were so attached to a higher taste that he was able to give up his lower desires or anything that ties him to material world. Now, we ourselves have such experience. We all of us have experience with so much sumptuous food that we constantly eat outside. So before coming to ISKCON, I'm sure all of you have eaten a lot of cakes, a lot of rich food. But when you come to ISKCON, suddenly you see that in the temple counter, there are cakes being sold, sweets are being sold, like a sweetmeat shop. Everything is sold at the counter of the temple. Why is that? Because there are a lot of devotees who have experience of this outside things, rich food, and then when they come to temples, usually in South Indian temples, what prasadam we have some puliogare, or we have some lemon rice, or some sweet rice, something. That's a standard we have. But suddenly when you come to ISKCON, you have so many varieties of sweets, cakes, puffs sold in the counter. And this especially is for the neophyte level devotees who had experienced all these kind of different varieties of food outside. And when they suddenly come to ISKCON, we don't want to detach them from those food, because we don't want devotees saying there's nothing here. The initial way a devotee gets attracted is through their tongue, right? So through the tongue, we whatever things they have eaten outside, we continue giving them to the devotees, but as prasadam. That is called higher taste. Whatever you used to eat, which was not prasadam, now you're giving the same food, but with a higher taste as a prasadam of the Lord. Of course, it's not too always nice that we eat too much of sweets all the time, even if it's prasadam. We should remember that just eating is not, edible items are not prasadam. When you have darshan of the Lord's, the priest will give you a little tulsi, a little flower. During the arati, somebody will come and give you the fragrance of these flowers, or the scent applied on the body of the Lord. All of these are also prasadam. So just the edible part is not prasadam, right? Anything that has been offered to the Lord, could be flowers, could be tulsi. All of these are also prasadam. So when you're coming to the temple, don't come with this notion that today I did not get that, the nice cake that was offered to the Lord, so I missed the prasadam. No, you did not miss, because you still got the chandan that is applied to the Lord. That is also prasadam, right? So our focus should not be just on satiating the tongue, right? And especially in ISKCON, there's so much free access to sweet things around us that it becomes, a routine that I believe ISKCON devotees have more sweets than regular normal people also. Right. There was this devotee Mataji. She said one day that, she had this dream that Jagannatha came to her dream and told that every day you have to give me one sweet item offering. She had a Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra Mai in an altar in the home. And she said, because Jagannath came in my dream, now I'm making sweets every day. So what happens to this prasadam after it's offered to the Lord? the family eats, the children eat, husband eat, I eat. um, so are the children okay eating all these sweets? You don't not feeling anything? She said, yes, ever since I started offering the sweets and yeah, we started honoring it, the children have become very erratic, very, jittery. They get agitated very quickly because that's the result of having sweets. Too much sweets, right? So even sweets, prasadam in any form, especially the Lord might be able to eat as many sweets and digest it, but we have a material body, so we have a limited capability to digest such kind of rich food. So we should have it in a small portions such that the prasadam is honored, and we are also not missing out from the benefit of having prasadam. So just a side note on that. So Sita Prajna is that he fixes his conscious constantly on Krishna. Okay. Just give me a second. Here, the senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. Also, the example of fire is sometimes given. As a blazing fire burns everything within a room, Lord Vishnu, situated in the heart of the yogi, burns up all kinds of impurities. The Yoga Sutra also prescribes meditation on Vishnu and not meditating on the void. The so-called yogis who meditate on something other than the Vishnu form simply waste their time in vain searching after some phantasmagoria. We have to be Krishna conscious, devoted to the personality of Godhead. This is the aim of the real yoga. Okay, and the real yoga is nothing other than bhakti yoga. Okay, so yoga does not mean doing physical exercise to lose weight for mental peace. No, it means being devoted to the personality of Godhead, and that is bhakti yoga. Let's read verse 60. Did we read 61 or 62 before? 62.
61. Yes, 62. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
ध्यायते विषयान् पुंसं सङ्गस्ते स्तेषुपजायते सङ्गतसञ्जायते कामः कामक्रोधभिजायते. Translation: while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises.
Let's read the next verse as well, 63.
Yes, Mataji.
Sindhu Mataji.
भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. Translation: from anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. Then, when memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool.
Okay, so these are very important verses. It talks about how the mind, uncontrolled mind, can bring us down. So there are different stages mentioned in verse 62 and 63. So let's understand. Contemplate. The first stage is contemplating the object of the senses. Okay, just like Vishwamitra did. He was contemplating on the sound of the anklets. Right? Contemplating would mean thinking, overthinking, thinking constantly, contemplating. You have not taken action yet, but you're contemplating on that object, your sense desire. Now, this can be anything. It could be things that around you that you desire, but before you act on the desire, what do? You contemplate, right? So Vishwamitra also contemplated on the sound of the anklets of Menaka, right? If he had not contemplated on it, he would not have fallen to the seduced by Menaka, right? But when he heard the sound, he contemplated on the sound, and he started thinking, must be a woman, is it a beautiful woman, what is she doing here? He's also getting angry that somebody is trying to disturb his meditation, right? And he's wondering, what is the woman doing here? So he's thinking about this person who is come here with this anklet. So he's contemplating. That's the first stage. So this two verses is talking about the different stages that an uncontrolled mind can take you through before ultimate fall down. Okay, the first stage is contemplation. Now, the next step is attachment. Attachment is this word. Dhyayato is contemplation. Vishayan pumsaha. Okay. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha. So when you're contemplating on the object of your attachment or the sense object, then sangas tejusapa te te teshupajayate. Sangas teshupajayate. So then attachment develops. Teshupajayate. Okay, so we develop attachment. The more you think, the in a loving way or in a hateful way, whatever your sentiments are, the more you think, contemplate, then you start developing attachment, right? Your attachment is also increasing. Somebody tells you that you have to invest in this company for the next 10 years. If you invest this much amount, then after the 10th year, you'll get 20x amount back, right? Now you're contemplating on that. You don't have the means right now to make such a big investment, but you're contemplating. And as you keep thinking, yes, in 10 years, I need this kind of money because my child would have been grown this much. I need to, secure this much money. So the more you think about it, the positives, pros, cons, attachment to that idea develops, right? So what happens? You start contemplating, and the more time you spend contemplating, the more attached you get to the idea. Then the next stage is, after attachment, is from such attachment, lust develops. Okay. Sangat sanjayate kamaha. So kamaha is lust. Now, lust can be sexual lust, or it could be also material and over endeavor. Right? When you are attached to a certain idea, what happens? Then you think that I must make this happen. So if you don't have the means to make it happen, then you'll have to work hard, right? If you say you have to invest 20 lakhs in some place and you only have 5 lakhs right now, in next 6 months you somehow have to accumulate 20 lakhs to invest. So what you do, you over endeavor to accumulate that money. If you have that kind of money, you'll invest, and then that cycle of contemplation, attachment is broken because you have invested. Now that cycle of desire is broken, but of course your mind will have many other desires, so it will detach from this idea and attach to something else. But if you do not have the means to source this or get this desire to reality, then you over endeavor. Any kind of endeavor for sense objects is lust. Okay, so if someone so this lust, then what happens from there? From kamat krodho bijayate. So if the lust gives rise to anger, right? So if you have the means, you'll invest. But if you don't have the means, you have tried for 6 months, but you're not being able to satisfy this requirement, then what happens? Anger, right? Why is this happening to me alone? I put so much hard work, all my efforts are wasted now, and I cannot do anything. What out of that frustration, anger develops. So lust leads to anger, right? So this is a different stage. From further in verse 63, it says, from krodha, from anger, complete delusion arises. Now, what is this delusion? Sammoha, right? So from anger comes sammoha or delusion. So which means to say, then you lose track of, I somehow have to get this desire sanctioned. I have to get this running. So what you then in that state of delusion, because your desire is so intense, you do not hesitate. One does not hesitate from stealing if they have to. So beg, borrow, steal, whatever the means, they want to get this money. So they take whatever means they think is appropriate to get this desire going. And from sammoha, the next stage is from delusion, bewilderment of memory. Sammohat smriti vibhramaha, bewilderment of memory. So what happens then when because of the bewilderment, one does not, normally a person does not steal, right? Because we know that if we steal, then there's consequences. But when the memory is bewildered, then we completely forget the consequence of our action, right? in our country, there are certain rules to be followed, certain societal procedures to be stuck with. But a person who is completely bewildered in their memory, they lose track of what is right, what is wrong, and what is the consequence of such a action, and their memory is lost. And finally, because of bewilderment of memory, then intelligence is lost. Buddhi nasho, intelligence is lost. So for them, then they completely go on the path of ignorance, right? So at this point, they have no consequence of what is right, what is Krishna, what is a higher way versus lower way. They just follow the path of ignorance. So they have lost intelligence. Their senses, mind, intelligence have completely forgotten the spiritual path. They forget Krishna. They forget all the great devotees like Ambarisha or Prahlad Maharaj. All these is of no consequence at this point, right? So all that matters is their desire. And when your desire is prioritized above Krishna as well, then Krishna is no longer supreme in such person's mind. The ego, the false ego, is what becomes more supreme. And when false ego is given so much importance, then ultimately that such a person falls down, right? And pranashyanti, buddhi nashat pranashyanti. So this is the various levels on which the mind acts, and how a different person goes through different stages of falling down. Okay, so sometimes it starts with a small desire, just one sense. We hear something. Mostly, ears are always active. Even when you're sleeping, the ears are always active, right? Or your mind is always active. So your even small desires, especially what we hear, the reason why we always hear Vedas from a ear, especially because this is a very important part. It can influence your mind directly, right? So it can start with something small, like the ear or the eye, but because of that, ultimately your intelligence is lost, and because of that, the false ego is given more importance, even more than Krishna, and then we fall down from the spiritual path. So then such thoughts, we should then understand that one should try to nip such thoughts in the bud itself. As soon as these thoughts come in, we should endeavor so much. We are endeavoring so much on these material things because we want that attachment, we want that material, comfortable life. So when these thoughts come that, I need to over endeavor, I need to do this, that, then we try to understand, is this really requirement? Where are these thoughts coming from? Is it coming from my insecurities, or are these demands of the family that I'm, though they are comfortable, sometimes they still want something more, and hence I'm endeavoring? Or is it because of my social image, prestige? What am I doing this for? If it really required, of course we can put the appropriate effort and source that kind of material things. But if it's done for other superficial things, or like fame, or family pressure, or things like that, then we need to know when we need to say stop. This is not something I should pursue further for the sanity of my mind, right? So that kind of understanding one should have. Like, for example, um, when you're, let's say, your final exam, many of you just finished your final exam now. Just before the final exam, right? How much objectively one will study for the exam? There's no other distractions that can bother you, right? Similarly, when we have this human life, what if this is our last human life? Because we have lived such a dreaded life so far. What if this is our last human life? So the rest of the human life that we have, we should put so much focus and objectively think of Krishna that nothing else should deter us from this path, right? So we should remember our mind, dhyayate, contemplation is what all this downfall starts from. So in the modern philosophy, especially, there's a famous saying, it may not be the same way it's worded, but they say that in modern philosophy, that whatever you contemplate on, it will happen, it will manifest, right? So this concept of contemplating was explained almost 5,000 years ago, but our modern philosophy just stops at contemplating and getting what you want. But you can read these two verses. It nicely explains over the consequence of contemplating even after you achieve it. It talks all the way to till the point of loss of intelligence, memory, and fall down. Right. So Bhagavad Gita is giving us complete knowledge. It's not just limited to material wellness. It's talking about the consequence of our desires for these such kind of material wellness as well. So the information or the knowledge given in Bhagavad Gita is then complete science. It's just not limited to material enjoyment level. So remember, these are the three things. So from these two verses, we understand that from our contemplation, it eventually leads to anger, lust, and greed. Right? As Acharya says that these three factors are the direct gateways to hell. Right? So we should remember this. This will be explained further in the coming verses. We'll not contemplate much on that today. But remember, anger, lust, and greed are the gateways to hell. And this will be explained further in the coming chapters as well. Let's read verse 64.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Ragadvesha vimuktaistु vishayan indriyaicharan atma vasyair vidheyatma prasadham adhigacchati. Translation: but a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord.
Mm-hmm. Hare Krishna. Verse 64. So verse 64 is saying one who is free from attachment, raga, and aversion, dvesha. For them, they can attain complete mercy of the Lord, mercy of the Lord. So there was this pastime of these two brahmacharis who were doing some service. They had gone away from their ashrama to do some service. So they're coming back to the ashrama and they saw this river and there was a lady who was drowning in this river. So out of the two brahmacharis, one jumped into the river, saved her, brought her back to the shore. And the other devotee was surprised, thinking, you're a brahmachari. How can you touch a woman like that? So this first brahmachari who saved the woman said she was drowning. There was no better thing that I could do other than saving her. So they continued walking. They reached the ashram, and after walking for 2 more days, now the person who was surprised, he went to his guru and said, you know what, this brahmachari, he saved a woman. The woman was very beautiful. She had long hair, a nice, beautiful eyes, small waist. And this other brahmachari, he saw this woman drowning and immediately he picked her by the waist and brought her to the shore. Now the guru is thinking that that brahmachari is saved. Yeah, and he did his responsibility and moved on. He forgot about that beautiful lady, but you're explaining her with so much detail, saying she's such a beautiful lady. So you have carried her in the mind still, right? So this brahmachari has been contemplating on that woman. That means to say that he's been now somehow got attached to the woman, right? But our responsibility should be done without any kind of attachment, especially in ISKCON. Most of you are neophyte level or just starting in ISKCON, but there are so many duties to be performed, and these duties should be performed without any distinction of whether this Mataji or Prabhu has a male body or a female body. Only objective is then to serve the Lord. Right, whatever your capabilities are, you serve the Lord. Of course, certain duties can be done by Prabhujis alone, like the deity worship in the altar. Such things can be done by Prabhujis alone. But there's no question of why Prabhujis can do this or why Matajis. All of us will serve to the best. The objective is to serve and not to get name, fame, or prestige by the process of serving. Right. So as long as you have service, even if it means going and scrubbing the walls of the kitchen, which is dirty, and getting your hands and clothes dirty in that process, even that, if that is the most menial kind of service that you have to do, then you still do it because you're doing it for Krishna. So that is the mood of a devotee. Like, for example, Srila Prabhupada, very often he would travel in very nice cars, Mercedes and whatnot. Very rich people would come and donate some nice cars to Srila Prabhupada for his service. So once some reporter asked him, you're a sannyasi, but I see you living such a lavish life with so many cars, nice temples everywhere. So Srila Prabhupada very clearly said, these cars belong to Krishna. Krishna has given these cars to us so we can serve him, right? So, but even if he hadn't given the car, we would still continue serving him. So, like for example, in the initial days when Prabhupada did not have enough money for cars and luxury items like that, somehow with some of the temple fund money, some devotees bought a very old depleted bus. The bus had no seats practically, all metal rods that looked like the shape of a seat, but all the seats were all torn. There was nothing standing still. But that's all they could afford at that point, to get that bus. And somebody somehow cleaned up the bus. They put a chair for Prabhupada inside the bus, and Prabhupada very nicely, without complaining, he came and sat on that chair. He did not complain because he understood that his disciples were doing the best they could as per their capability to serve the Lord. Right? So whatever comes, whether it's posh cars or depleted bus, Prabhupada used all his resources just to serve the Lord. He was not personally attached to these kind of luxuries. It's not that I have this car, this belongs to me. I have 10 cars in different places, so all these cars. No, this is all Krishna's. And anyone who's serving Krishna can use that car. And similarly, in another situation, Srila Prabhupada in jest had said, because someone has said, you're always using aeroplanes to fly from one country to the other. Shouldn't you try to be more frugal while serving Krishna? Srila Prabhupada has said, all of you are running to surrender to Maya at the speed of aeroplane. So how can I chase you in a bullock cart? So even I have to come in the speed of aeroplane. So that was Srila Prabhupada's way of, justifying it. But all being said, Srila Prabhupada, even once Jadurani, one of his favorite disciples, she's famous for her paintings that she did of Krishna. So she wanted to pick up something from top of the cupboard shelves, and she was short to reach it. And Srila Prabhupada saw her trying to reach on top. He said, why don't you use this Vyasasana, climb on top and take whatever you want. But Jadurani said, but Maharaj, that's yours. Srila Prabhupada, that's your Vyasasana. How can I step on it? And Srila Prabhupada said, as long as you're serving Krishna, you can step on my head as well. There's no problem, right? As long as we are serving Krishna. So that's the mood of a devotee, that, whatever you have, you engage it in serving the Lord. Let's read verse 65.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanir asyopajayate prasanna chetaso yashu buddhi paryavatishtate. For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. The threefold miseries of material existence. This is Adhyatmika, Ati Bhautika, and Adi Dhaivika. We'll talk about this in the next Bhakti Vriksha classes, the threefold miseries of material life. We'll go into detail of that. But these miseries are always for one who surrendered to Krishna, these miseries which always, is there in any material jiva. Whoever is born in a material world will go through these threefold material miseries. But for one who surrendered to Krishna, in such consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. So these threefold miseries don't bother them anymore. Okay, let's read the next verse, verse 66.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
नास्ति बुद्धिर अयुक्तस्य न चायुक्तस्य भावना न चा भावयतः शांतिर शांतस्य कुतः सुखम. Translation: one who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace?
So unless one is in Krishna consciousness, there's no possibility of peace. So it's confirmed in the 5th chapter that when one understands that Krishna is the only enjoyer of all good results of sacrifice and penance, that he is the proprietor of all universal manifestation, then he is the real friend of all living beings. Then only can one have real peace. right? So you should understand everything that we do on a material level is for our tongue, stomach, and genitals, right? All of them is in one line. So the more you engage your tongue in eating lavish food, the more your stomach is going to get be in a disorderly state. And when your tongue and stomach is not in order, then your genitals is also impacted, right? So it said that, if you focus your mind on give so much try to distract your senses from all this sense gratification, try to focus your mind on Krishna, then it's easy to remember shastras, because you're able to control your semen, you're able to control your sexual desires, right? It's called ojas. So one is able to do it by controlling your tongue, stomach. So the main thing is then the tongue. To control the tongue, then your stomach is in order. Otherwise, you'll have a lot of indigestion, stomach issues, and from there, genitals will also be distracting you further into material activities. But the main essence then is to control the tongue by taking Krishna's name, chanting the Lord's name, eating prasadam only. That's a nice way to control your tongue, right? And from there, your mind will also be able to focus on more important things. Let's read verse 67.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
इन्द्रियाणां हि चरिचरतां यन्मनोनुविधीयते तदस्य हरति प्रज्ञां वयुर्नवम् इवाम्भसि. Translation: As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence.
So even one of the senses, if it's disengaged, then it can carry away the one of the roaming senses on which the mind focus can carry away the man's intelligence. Just like this pastime of Vishwamitra, he focused his ear on the anklet sound and his mind was immediately carried away. So our focus must be to control the senses. And how should it be controlled? By engaging them in Krishna. Okay, let's read verse 68.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
तस्माद् यस्य महाबाहो निगृहीतानि सर्वशा इन्द्रियाणि इन्द्रियार्थे भयस्तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता. Translation by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Therefore, O mighty armed one, whose senses are restrained from the objects, is certainly of steady intelligence. Hare Krishna Mataji.
So steady intelligence or sthita pragna is therefore one who is able to restrain the senses from the objects by fixing them on Krishna. Can you read the purport also, Mataji?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Yes, purport. One can scrub the forces of sense gratification only by means of Krishna consciousness or engaging all the senses in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As enemies are scrubbed by superior force, the senses can similarly curbed. As enemies thank you. As enemies are curbed by superior forces, the senses can similarly be curbed, not by any human endeavor, but only by keeping them engaged in the service of the Lord. One who has understood this, that only by Krishna consciousness is one really established in intelligence, and that one should practice this art under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, is called a sadhaka or a suitable candidate for liberation.
Yes. All of us are sadhakas at some level because we are practicing to control our mind, right? So the default, we are not sthita pragna, we are sadhakas. And when we practice it by under the guidance of a spiritual master, then it becomes easy because the spiritual master will give us some kind of rules, regulations, do's, don'ts. And when you follow that, it becomes easier to control the senses. But the ultimate weapon to control our senses is to serve the Lord. And serve how? By surrendering to us, a spiritual master, and following the instruction. Verse 69.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Bhagavad Gita 2.69 Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tashyam jagarti sanyami yashyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato munehe. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self control, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective says.
Hmm.
Hare Krishna.
So, what does this verse mean? How can it be that something that's a night for one type of people, and for sages it's a daytime? What does that mean? So, what this verse is talking about is the perspective of a yogi versus a perspective of a materialistic person. So, sometimes there's what is night for all is a time of awakening for the self control, and the time of awakening for all is is night for the self realize. So sometimes the yogis might think something is important, like controlling their mind, controlling their senses. Yogis think like that, but for a materialistic person, it's like night. They don't even want to think of controlling. We have one life. What to control in this? We should enjoy, right? That's the perspective. A self realized person is fixed on satisfying their soul. They're talking about internalizing all their thoughts. And that is a night for materialistic person. They don't even want to think in that direction. So while the materialistic people, a person is fixed on sense objects that makes them experience some kind of happiness, lamentation, bewilderment, that is when they are awake, right? A materialistic person, when they are in contact with the sense objects, they are very awake. They want to be engaged, talk about money, investment, buying a nice car, pleasing, buying new jewelry sets. A materialistic person becomes suddenly awake, right? Could be going to movies, enjoying nice food. So all karmis, they enjoy such kind of food, such kind of things, and they're awake in such things. But for a stita pragna, this is like night. They don't even want to think about engaging their senses in all these things. The only thing they want is to engage their sense in Krishna. And if these activities is not engaging their senses in Krishna, then they consider it like night. They don't want to engage in any of such activities. Like for example, many of us might go on vacation, right? Goa is a very nice spot in India, at least. So, what do karmis go there for, or materialistic people go there for? Eating, sleeping, mating, defending, the same old stuff, right? But if a devotee goes to Goa, they might think about, actually Goa is supposed to be a very pious place. It's gets its name from the word gau or cow. So it has a very nice past of and nice places. Though now it's not may not be as famous as before. But a devotee, if they go to Goa, they look at the sky, they'll remember Krishna, the nice beaches, they'll remember Krishna, they'll go to different places within Goa, they'll enjoy. Similarly, there's Gokarna, it's known for its beaches, but Gokarna has a very nice pastime of Lord Shiva, Ravana, and Ganesha as well. How Gokarna, or the Linga, Atma Linga of Shiva, happened to come to Gokarna. Tirupati, we all of many of you might have walked up the steps of Tirupati, and what makes it pleasurable for us that walking these steps is knowing that at the end of this walk we'll have Darshana of Tirumala, Tirupati, right? So that is what motivates us. But for a materialistic person, even though they might climb the step for whatever reason, physical exercise, nice trekking, whatever their reason, or nice Instagram picture, but they'll not have the same kind of pleasure that a devotee has when they visit these different places. So for devotee, without the Lord, there is no enjoyment, right? While they rest, while the rest of the world, they'll try to enjoy the world without the Lord, minus the Lord, and that's the exact reason that why they came to the material world, because they wanted to enjoy without the Lord. And because they have that tendency, they continue doing this in the material world as well, because they continue enjoying sense objects, and that way they get stuck in the cycle of life and death. Let's read verse 70.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
आपुण्यमानम् अचलप्रतिष्ठं समुद्रमापः प्रविशन्ति यद्यते यद् यद्वत् तद् तद्वत् काम यमं प्रविशन्ति सर्वे स शान्तिमाप्नोति न कामकामी. Translation: a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enters like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires.
Yes. So in rainy season, we'll see that most of the oceans are getting filled up with many desires, but still the ocean does not overwhelm, right? Similarly, these desires are constantly going to be there from all directions because that's the nature of the material world. There's no controlling desires. But like a sthita pragna is not disturbed, just like the ocean is not disturbed by the incessantly flowing rivers. These desires will keep coming. They'll continue to disturb. But Sthita Pragna will try to control his senses and not engage in them. A person who tries to satisfy these desires is like if you have a spot that's itching in your hand and if you try to scratch it, what happens? Does the itch subside? Doesn't subside. The itch becomes more itchier, right? The more you scratch it, the more itchier it gets. Similarly, but what's a good way to subside the itch? You try to ignore that itch completely, right? And sometime, though it will, irritate you for some time, the itch will stop. Similarly, this desires, it will keep coming. But if you act on this desire, it's like itching the itch, right? It gets uncontrolled if you do that. If you give focus, if you give your mind and thought to it, then it becomes uncontrolled, right? So you try to ignore this desires and engage in something that engages your sense in Krishna. Okay. Devotees, however, give me a second. So the devotees, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. A Krishna conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Remember, necessities, not desires. Okay. Therefore, he's like the ocean, always full in himself. Desires may come to him like the waters of the river that flow into the ocean, but he's steady in his activities and he's not even slightly disturbed by the desires for sense gratification. This is the proof of a man, Krishna conscious man, one who has lost all inclination for material sense gratification, although the desires are present. Okay, just like Yamunacharya said, though the desires come, he spits at the face of the desires. That's like the humor he has with Krishna. So, verse 71, let's read this.
Yes, Mataji. Vihaya kaman yes sarvan pumanscharati nishpraha nirmamo nirahankaraha sashantim adhigacchati. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship, and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. Hare Krishna.
So this verse is talking what are the qualities of a self-realized person or a sthita pragna. So the qualities are he's given up all objects of sense enjoyment, given up, right? It's not that does not think about, has it, but does not think, no, given up. He is without desire except for bodily maintenance. He gives up all sense of possessiveness. Proprietorship is this belongs to me, this is mine. No, he's given up all sense of proprietorship. Devoid of false ego and attains real peace, right? These are the qualities of a sthita pragna. Let's read verse 72 as well.
You want me to read it, Mataji?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
येषा ब्राह्मी स्थितिः पार्थ नैनां प्राश्य विमुह्यति स्थित्वा स्यामन्तकालेऽपि ब्रह्मनिर्वाणमृच्छति. Translation: That is the way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. Hare
Brahma
Krishna.
Nirvanam Rachati. So one can attain the kingdom of God. How? This is a way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated even at the hour of death, then one can enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, in the previous verse, we spoke about the characteristics of a sthita pragna. right? He's not bewildered, he's focused, he's no sense of proprietorship, he's given up all material possessions. There's a very good example of this, Chitta Pragna. There's a person called Haridasa Thakura. Haridasa Thakura is also called as, he's known for his daily he chants uh, 3,000 the names of the Lord 3 lakh times. He's called as a Namacharya as well. But originally, this Haridas Thakura, he comes from a Muslim family. This Haridas Thakura is an incarnation of Lord Brahma himself. And Haridas Thakura, right in the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he he incarnated at that time and he was born in a Muslim family. But originally, he's Lord Brahma himself. Now, remember, Lord Brahma is the highest when it comes to the standard of being a Brahmana. But he was born in a Muslim family because he wanted to show that surrender to Lord Krishna is not limited to somebody who is born in a higher class of family, like a Brahmana. No, anybody, however fallen they are one can still surrender to Krishna and attain perfection. So this happened to Haridas Thakur as well because he came in contact with Advaita Acharya. And through Advaita Acharya, he got immersed in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. And every day he'll chant the names of the 192 rounds of the, like we do 16 rounds minimum. He will do 192 rounds of 16 rounds. Sorry, 108 rounds of the mala. So this way, almost 16 hours a day, he'll just sit in front of his tulsi plant and he'll chant the name of the Lord. And he had no time for anything else. So whatever time he had after that, he'll go preaching house to house or he'll make some little prasadam. But his focus more than sleeping, eating is just to chant. So this Haridas Thakura, his reputation was growing so nicely in the community that a Muslim man, such a devotee of the Lord, there was Ramachandra Khan, who's the tax collector of the place where uh, Haridas Thakur was residing. And he was very envious of the reputation that Haridas Thakur was building. And he wanted to give some kind of dishonor to this Haridas Thakur. So he hired a prostitute. So this prostitute, she said, give me 3 days. So this Ramachandra actually wanted to send the prostitute and his soldiers along and together somehow catch this Haridas Thakura in association with this prostitute. But the prostitute said, let me just go talk to him. Give me 3 days. I'll, have a union with him somehow. And the next time I'm trying to allure him, and then I'll call you and your soldiers. Then you can capture him in the act. So she asked for 3 days' time. So this way, she goes to Haridas Thakur. Now, Haridas Thakur used to live in an isolated place with just his tulsi plant, a small kutira, and he'd sit and chant outside his kutira looking at the tulsi. So when this prostitute came there and she expressed her desire to have a union with Haridas Thakura, he said, I am doing my rounds. I have this commitment that I will do this 192 rounds every day. So let me finish this round, and after that, I'll try to please you. The prostitute said, okay. So she waited for Haridas Thakur to complete her round. She sat there, listened to the chanting, and then it was already night. So Haridas Thakur said, sorry, it's already late. Come back tomorrow. Let's try it tomorrow again. So next day again she comes, right? The next day she comes a little earlier. Haridas Thakur said, yesterday I could not please you. So today I'm chanting, but I'll try to finish fast and then we can I'll fulfill your desires. So again, she listened through the whole chanting. 2 days over, and again the same thing happened. She went back that evening as well. Then third day she came, and this time she chanted, Haridas Thakur is chanting, and as she was listening to the names of the Lord, the vibrations of the name, even she started chanting the name. The third day, she also started chanting. So again, third day, chanting happened. Haridas Thakur said, tomorrow, right? So she went back. The next day she came again and she fell down crying at the lotus feet of Haridas Thakur. She revealed to her that Ramachandra Khan he had actually, somehow sent her to defame him or put him through some kind of blame him for all these acts. So Haridas Thakura said, I actually knew about this whole conspiracy. And even though he wanted to leave the kutira the same day and not dwell into all this, but because he wanted to give the Harinam name to the prostitute, he had stayed back for another 3 days. But now that he revealed this to the prostitute, she said, "Can you please accept me as your disciple?" She begged Haridas Thakur to be her spiritual master and give her Diksha. So Haridas Thakur tells her, "You have earned your living so far, earned a lot of richness through illegal ways, not authorized ways. So why don't you go back, distribute all your wealth that you have earned this way to all the brahmanas, and then you can come back, sit here and chant, right? Just sit and chant like I do." With that, he instructed her, and he left the kutira same day. And this prostitute just did just that. All the wealth she had accumulated, she just gave it up, and she came and started chanting in front of the tulsi. And her fame also, her chanting was so intense that she continuously chanted just like Haridas Thakur, and her fame also grew like that. And many people would come there and give her some offering, and very nicely she became, from a prostitute, she developed saintly qualities. So this is what happens when you're in an association of a pure devotees. Many a times when I go meet my Shiksha gurus or Diksha gurus, um, I don't know what kind of state I would have gone to them, but when I finish my conversation with them or I finish my interaction with devotees, when I come back, I'm definitely rejuvenated. My bhakti is rejuvenated. So that happens when you meet a real devotee. So Haridas Thakur is the Sthita Pragna, right? Though he had this allurement of having a personal enjoyment with a prostitute, he did not fall for it because his senses were engaged in something higher. Versus Vishwamitra, at that stage, his senses were still engaged in material enjoyment, and hence he fell down for the allurement of Apsara. But Haridas Thakur, though he was in a similar situation of a prostitute who was trying to enjoy with him, he did not fall down because his senses were engaged in Krishna consciousness. So this is a difference of how one falls down when they have engagement in material senses versus or when the senses are engaged in Krishna. So when like this, when you're completely surrendered to Krishna and that's the only thing you want, that is Stita Pragna or self-realization. And that's the only way to control the senses, right? There's no controlling desires, but you can control the desires by controlling your senses, right? So that's the only way. And the last verse, it talks about how to attain the kingdom of God, Brahma Nirvanam Rachati. The only way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. There's no more bewilderment. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death. Now this verse, the statement hour of death, only if you remember Krishna till the hour of death, and even at the hour of death, then Brahma Nirvanam Rachati. Then you can attain the board of the Lord Himself. But is it so easy to remember the Lord at the time of death? Because it's very difficult to remember. Think of the many times you have gone through some, personal calamities in your life. How often have you remembered Lord versus trying to solve it yourself? Right? So it's not easy unless you have practiced intensely to remember Lord by whatever means, engaging your senses always. Then maybe there's some hope of remembering the Lord at the time of death, right? But without having that intense desire to serve the Lord, like whatever you do, you want to think of Krishna, you want to listen to Krishna, you want to talk about Krishna, you want to look at Krishna, you want to serve Krishna, you want to walk to the places where Krishna has lived, you want to cook for Krishna. If that kind of intense engagement to serve Krishna, if it's not there, then you can rest assured that there's no way that you can remember Krishna at the time of death, right? Only if Krishna only if you remember Krishna, he says at the time of that, we can enter the kingdom of God. Just like Parikshit Maharaj, he knew that, he's got 7 days to live. And what he did in the 7 days and night, he just listened to Srimad Bhagavatam. So this way he engaged all his senses. He gave up all other material activities. He engaged. So he was liberated in 7 days, right? After listening to the pastimes of the Lord. But we know when that death is for us. It could happen tomorrow, next year. We live a very assured life that nothing adverse can happen to me. In fact, between the conversation between Yaksha, who was Yamaraj himself, and Yudhishthira, one of the questions was asked was, which is the most surprising factor about material life? And and this yaksha says it that people are constantly dying every minute, and yet everyone thinks that will not happen to us, right? So everyone thinks somehow that I'm going to live for a very long life, but we don't really know when that death is coming. So materialistic people often say this, live your life such that that like there's no tomorrow. Like, whatever happens because of this enjoyment tomorrow, I might go to hell, but doesn't matter. But enjoy today that you're living, enjoy. That's how materialistic people say. But devotees say that, every day that you're living, it's a gift of Krishna. So live it such that even if you're dying tomorrow, Krishna is ready to take you back to Goloka. Right? So we don't think like materialistic. We think like devotees. So even if you're living today, you should live such that Krishna is ready to take you to Goloka tomorrow. So every day, every minute. So if you're not chanting already, you should start chanting. You should start from one round. But if you're already doing one round for more than 2-3 months now, you should quickly move to 2 rounds, 3 rounds, 4 rounds. Increase it sustainingly. How can you remember Krishna if you can't even do more than one round every day? How can you remember Krishna at the time of death? Right? So remember Krishna every time, so that at the point of death, you can easily think of nothing else but Krishna alone. There's actually this Maharaj who passed away, left his body last year, Gopal Krishna Maharaj. There's a nice video of him in the deathbed. It said that every day you do arati to the Lord at a certain time. So he's always thinking of arati, arranging this and that. So he was constantly engaged. And it's shown that in his deathbed also, he was so much focused on his service that in his hand, he's sleeping on his deathbed and he's moving his hand in arati. So he's doing manasik arati to the Lord, even on his deathbed. So his services didn't really stop. Though his physical body had given up on him, his services never stopped. So that's how a devotee could be, that constantly think of how to serve Krishna. Okay, so this is how where we'll end chapter 2. Sorry, I took 10 more minutes than usual. Are there any questions on chapter 2? You can please come on video for me for this part.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, you explained very nicely in two verses, like that first we develop the attachment, and then if that desire is not fulfilled, then lust develops, and then anger, and then we fall down all the way. So basically, I just want to have this anger thing, because sometimes we show this anger on our kids, and sometimes they do not understand things. So how we should deal with that? I mean, it's not that thing. I mean, it might go in the due course of time when they will grow up and start understanding. But time being, lot of time we show anger, and it gets intense also at times at home.
I know in a modern world, showing the stick to the kids is banned in many schools as such. But I think coming from the 80s that I think that the stick was the biggest gift that my parents gave to him, because I'm as disciplined in my life today, because there was some sense of fear that even if it came in the way of the stick or a carrot, whatever the mean is, but it is important to discipline your child. That's an important duty of a parent, right? So anger shown, of course, not everything has to be shown in anger, right? Some messages can be given in love also. Sometimes a devotee, if a child is misbehaving, they'll say, go face the wall, chant 2 rounds of Mahamantra, malas of Mahamantra, and come back. So don't pose Krishna consciousness as a punishment to your children, right? Make it fun. Take them for yatras, explain nice pastimes to them. When you're listening to kathas like them, let them sit in the side, listen to some kathas. Something will precipitate inside. I wouldn't say being angry at the child all the time. Some love is shown in the form of anger as well, but you need to know where to draw the line. because some kind of anger can have adverse effect on the child in the growing ages, right? It's said that if your child is in the teen ages, then you should be more like a friend to the child. The age to show the stick to the child is between 5 to 10. Chanakya Pandit says this, right? Once a child reaches the teenage years, then you have to be like a friend with a child. You can't show a stick that time, because that will make them more rebellious to what you're trying to say, right? But in the concept of what you're saying, anger is coming from the fact of your attachment to material things. It's talking about how your mind falls. But what example you're citing is not really related to the uncontrolled mind. You see that? Sometimes anger has to be displayed for what it has to be displayed. If you're a devotee and you want to bring your child to, and you're tried different ways and it's not working, then last step could be anger. So showing anger to serve the Lord is also fine. It's not a bad thing, right? Many people will say, give up material things because it will attachment, just renounce. But in our consciousness, we say money is not bad. It depends on what the money is used for, right? Same way, anger is not bad. It depends on what you're using it for, how you're using it. And if it's effective, the way you're using it is the best tool to get the consequence you desire.
Sure, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Any other questions? Jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnebhyo namo namaha. So now that we've finished chapter 2, what comes next?
Chapter 3.
Yes, chapter 3 as well. But there'll be a quiz,
And
on chapter 2.
Yeah, the thing is, a
Yes.
small request.
Yes, yes.
Let it be in the quiz mode. I mean, sorry, let it be in the choice mode.
Objective questions. It's not possible unless you're doing a lower level of study of Gita Gyan. But most of the questions, like you see, are details. It's impossible to just be objective. Since you're doing Gita Gyan level 2, some questions will be more open book as well, right? It will not always be select the right choices. So you should be ready for that. Okay, the higher level of studying you go, the more intense the question gets. So again, I'll give you 5 days, so you have time till Saturday. So for chapter 1, people who have not completed their quizzes or have given you certain comments to correct your answers and come back, you'll have to correct that. Don't just take my feedback as, something you consider but don't act on. You have to correct, give me the right answers. So I know that you've understood chapter 1. Okay, so I'll give you time till Saturday for everyone who has not completed their chapter 1 quizzes. So both chapter 1 and chapter 2 should be submitted by this Saturday. There will not be any more reminders, follow-ups. So if you're not completed your quizzes by Saturday, I assume you're not pursuing the Gita Gyan certification after this, right? So there will not be any further reminders. So I request you, if you're serious about the Gita Gyan study and certification, please make the due time to complete these quizzes and submit your answers to me. The quiz will be posted on the group chat after this call. Okay.
Mataji, just a quick clarification. Is it
Jai,
okay to refer some verses to complete the quiz, or it has to be like?
You can, if it's needed to refer the quiz. It's an
Okay.
open book. I'll tell you which verse to look at, where to find your answers, whether to look at the purport or the translation. You'll get that. But get the right answers from the required verse.
Sure, Mataji. Sure. Thank you, Mataji.
Okay, it's an open book, so you can refer to the required verse and get your answers from there.
Sure, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai, any other questions?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat pranam.
Dandavat pranam. Jai, thank you everyone. We'll
Hare
meet
Krishna,
on
Mataji.
Wednesday again.
Sure, Dandavat pranam, Mataji.
Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat pranam.
Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat pranam. Thank you very much.
Dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I'm closing the call for everyone.